Well, good morning, everybody. Good Sunday. What's going on in your world? How is everybody? I wanted to do a video this morning on the newly promoted sides and how well they're doing. Sunderland doing extremely well. Burnley, I think, have had an underrated start with the toughness of fixtures that they've had. And obviously Leeds United creeping into that top 10 with a really tough first three fixtures. So let's start on Burnley because I don't think the Clarets are getting enough credit. I really like the start of Josh Cullen and Hannibal in particular for them this season. I think they've been strong in the midfield, especially Cullen. And obviously unfortunate yesterday, but I think when it comes to form, I think you've seen with his brilliant goal against Sunderland as well. I think you've seen a really sort of good level up from Cullen as well. There'll have been a lot of questions at his door. You know, can he step up? Can he be able to do what, you know, many have said that Burnley need investment in when it comes to that midfield area? I think he's done a really good job so far. I think Hannibal coming in as well has been a really important addition for Burnley. And I think they look strong. They've been able to, and Parker, to his credit, has been able to join the dots and really keep up that principle, and those principles have been defensively solid. You know, you've lost Trafford, you've lost CJ Egan-Riley, you've lost Josh Brownhill, and I think it's been really important to make that midfield tough, and they've managed to do that. And I think Burnley will come on the right side very soon. We spoke very early on in the season, and we've said Burnley are going to surprise a few, and I think they will this season. As I've said, tough, dogged, and they've had some tough fixtures so far. So, you know, when those fixtures even out a little bit to the Premier League standard, which is never easy, but still, when they even out, when you haven't got your Tottenhams and your Man Uniteds, you from a Burnley perspective, you're hopefully looking at it and thinking, do you know what, we can dig in here. And they've shown against Sunderland, against a good quality Sunderland side, who, by the way, have won the two other games against Premier League opponents who've been in the division for a long period of time now. When you're looking at Brentford and West Ham, Burnley managed to keep them relatively quiet. Burnley were intense in that game. They deserved the win. And they actually scored 3 goals that game, didn't they? But obviously one was rightly disallowed. But I think Burnley are going to shock a few this season. I really do. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's move on to Leeds United. I think Leeds have had the toughest start, I'll be honest. I think when you look at Burnley with Spurs and Man United, obviously they've improved, but it is still Man United in there, and Spurs obviously lost yesterday to Bournemouth, didn't they? I think when you look at Leeds and having Arsenal and Newcastle, two teams who are notoriously very good outfits and very good when it comes to depth and rotation, and with Leeds' injuries as well, Tanaka being out and Padu being out, big forces in that Leeds United side. I think they've done well. I think yesterday against Newcastle, similarly to that of Burnley, when it comes to maybe that blunt force going forward and just needing something else in the attacking third is going to be problematic for Leeds. And like Burnley, that's why they need to dip into the market with 2 days to go. Maybe Sunderland need to look at the other end with like John Lachumi coming in potentially, which would be an unbelievable addition, by the way, but we'll talk about that on another video. So, but the positive, I guess, about Burnley is, you know, they've scored more goals than Leeds United. And, you know, you look at it, they've scored 4 goals, haven't they? Leeds are struggling a little bit in front of goal right now. They've not scored an open play goal, but as all Premier League fans know, keeping clean sheets in the Premier League is massive, and Farke didn't adapt at all, in my opinion, against Arsenal, but then he did adapt yesterday against Newcastle, and that was good to see. Good performances from Sean Longstaff, better performances from Alai Gruev in that midfield as rotation. And you look at Leeds and think if they can just add to that attack and we can just be a little bit more vibrant up there, I think there's a genuine opportunity that Leeds will be okay. I really do think that. And we are of the season right now, everybody, where there's Brentford, there's West Ham, there's Wolves. There are teams this season who you could argue with players that have moved on. And Buemo, Visser, you look at Wolves in particular, when you're looking at Aït-Nouri, when you're looking at Cunha, who are in transition. You know, Thomas Frank moving on, in transition. You know, at this moment in time, West Ham struggling off the pitch massively when it comes to their ownership model. Fans still complaining about the stadium and what's going on off the pitch. On the pitch isn't much better. So a lot of these teams are at a point of which right now you're thinking you can drag them in if you're a newly promoted side, and if you're a good, solid newly promoted side with a little bit of, you know, a little bit of vigour up front. But yeah, I think Leeds have been okay this season. I think there's more to come, but 4 points out of 9 against Everton, Newcastle and Arsenal. I think if you were to ask a Leeds fan, aka myself, at the beginning of the season, what would you have taken that? 100%. So Burnley, Positive signs so far. Deserved a draw yesterday. I thought it was poor officiating at the Man United game as well. Burnley unlucky, and I think there's more to come there. Leeds United, similarly to Burnley, need to invest in that final third. However, positive signs there, especially with the three that Leeds have faced. Now let's talk about Sunderland, who have probably been the more exciting of the three at the minute. Now, what I will say is I think Sunderland have had the three better games to have out the promoted side. You've got sort of teams that are going to be in the mud, if you will, with all of us lot when you're looking at Brentford and West Ham. But what I will say is that adds its own pressure. It adds its own pressure, that, because then you have to win. So earlier on in the season, you have to beat West Ham on the opening day, because they're what you're targeting, and they're saying, oh, I need 3 points there. Brentford, well, we need 3 points against Brentford. We need 3 points against Brentford. So you've got to look at these games and think there's a different type of pressure going into games against maybe lesser teams and having to win. Now, the metric that I threw up at the beginning of the season was effectively, if you get beyond 11 points in your first 10 games, there's been a ridiculous portion of teams that have stayed up on the basis of that. I know there's been outliers every now and again, but on the whole, that keeps you up. Normally, teams that start like that go on to get stronger, and it's a good average points haul of which keeps you up. Sunderland have got 6 already, and they'll probably be kicking themselves that they lost to Burnley, but this is the credit that needs to go into the bank for Burnley, really, because you're looking at Sunderland so far and you're thinking to yourself, well, they've had a 100% record apart from us, so if you're Burnley, you take that as a positive as well, don't you? So but I think overall, Sunderland, I like how Labree's approaching games. I think the recruitment's been excellent. I really do. I was watching them yesterday and I love the midfield. I think there's such a lovely blend in that midfield. I think there's the conductor, the orchestrator in Granit Xhaka, but ultimately the defender of position as well. You see Habib Diarra getting forward and Xhaka covers him so nicely. Siddiqui in there with them as well, a lovely blend. I thought Enzo Lefebvre was brilliant yesterday, and Sunderland did outperform Brentford's XG yesterday. I know there wasn't a lot of chances in the game, but Wilson, Isidore at the end again. I mean, as I've said to you guys multiple times, Thierry Isidore, I think this guy's just I think he's such an asset, of which we were speaking on the channel last season about him being able to make that jump up and having the physical profile in being able to do so. A player of which you just know can make that step up. I think his physicality, his acceleration and his movement, his mobility just in that forward line is so good, I think. And the same could be said for Mienda as well. So Sunderland have got themselves in a position right now which I guess Leeds and Burnley haven't got themselves in, where maybe we're looking at like Lyle Foster and maybe like Joel Peru, and you're thinking to yourself, can they make the step up? Ozzy and Fleming, can they make the step up from the Championship to the Premier League? And there's question marks there. Whereas with Sunderland, they have those two players in Mienda and Isidore, who I actually think can make the step up. And you're seeing that so far. I mean, I know they've got tougher tasks to come, tougher days to come, but overall, I think those two in particular have been brilliant. But as I mentioned earlier on, Enzo Lefebvre I thought was excellent yesterday. It was one of his best performances I've seen in a Sunderland shirt. I thought he was really good yesterday. I thought they managed to keep Mikkel Damsgaard quiet, which was really important. But I was just speaking about the blend of the midfield, how important the midfield is in Premier League games. It's just so vital. It's monumentally important. I just think Habib Diarra, explosive, good on the back foot, driver through the heart of the opposition team. He's their best buy, if I'm honest with you. So I think that midfield blend's important. Siddiqui complements him well. Xhaka just at the base of that. I thought Reinildo was very good yesterday as well in terms of just pushing up high on that left-hand side. Brentford didn't know what to do from a tactical perspective. So clearly, Labrie has focused in on that, and I think Labrie's tactical ingenuity has been very, very good this season. You've seen different game plans from West Ham to yesterday against Brentford. Of course, it didn't quite work out against Burnley. And I thought, he got it wrong a little bit. There needed to be a little bit more intensity there. But in terms of how they set up, I felt they were less low blocky yesterday. But what Sunderland were able to do yesterday is Brentford are setting traps. They're setting traps for Sunderland to effectively lose the ball in certain positions. But because their midfield are so comfortable on the ball, they don't lose the ball in critical positions, which means that Brentford are then on the back foot, because then they're having to retreat and defend a lot more because Sunderland are breaking through the lines and they're not making mistakes. Really important in football, really important in critical positions. But overall, I think Leeds United, I think Sunderland and I think Burnley have made a really good fist of it so far, and we'll wait and see how this develops over there you know, over the season, I could be talking about us all being in, you know, all of us being in the bottom three. But I think Burnley, very underrated start. I think Burnley will come good. I think performances will start to come together, and they've been unlucky, in my opinion, yesterday. They deserve to beat Sunderland, in my opinion. And yeah, Tottenham Hotspur, maybe the score flattered Spurs a little bit, but still, you're looking at that and thinking it's an okay start for Burnley. Sunderland been the more impressive out of everybody because they've got 6 points on the board. And Leeds United, I think, with the games that Leeds have had, I think they've done remarkably well to get 4 points out of 9. So it's good for the promoted sides. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in a bit.